Here it is. Let's get the Trump. Trump spoke to the voters in Iowa, and he fucking popped off. My goat. We're going to be talking about that. We moved on from the AI drone operator shit. Okay. We're not covering the debt ceiling. I don't care. Trump is back taking credit for the vaccine.
Yeah, well, you know, everybody wanted a vaccine at that time. And I was able to do something that nobody else could have done, getting it done very, very rapidly.
My king.
But I never was for mandates. I thought the mandates were terrible. And you know, there's a big portion of the country that thinks that was a great thing. You understand that. Not a lot of the people in this room, but there is a big portion. I had a man come up to me the other day who's actually a Democrat liberal guy.
A big portion? Yes, you can look on my phone. Here you go. Are you going to cover the next chapter in the phase misogyny arc? Yeah, we'll do it later.
A friend of mine, and he said to me, I don't even know if he voted for me, to be honest, but he's a friend of mine, smart guy, but very liberal. He said, why is it you never mention what you did with the vaccines? I said, no, thanks. I'm not going to be doing that right now.
That's bullshit. He's making it seem like he was such a kind guy, and like that's the reason why he didn't mention it. First of all, he mentioned it all the fucking time, and then the only time he stopped mentioning it is when he realized like the crowd was booing him. There was a point in time when like at the peak of like the anti-vaxxer narrative that had become like a permanent staple of the idiotic American politics. The final stage of like idiocy in American politics, Donald Trump got booed in his own fucking crowd when he talked about this exact same thing. Where he was like, look at me, I did it. When is the last time you took her out to pee, Mom? Mom! Yeah. Anyway, and he's back to it, I guess.
But, you know, there is he said, it's amazing you saved so many lives. There's a big portion that feel very much the opposite. We can understand that. We can handle that. But I hated the idea of the mandates, and I didn't do the mandates. You know, I didn't make any governor close their state. Florida did close, as you know. But South Carolina, South Dakota, a lot of states didn't. Tennessee. A lot of states, the governors really did a good job. Iowa didn't really close. And they really didn't close.
Okay, we'll get back to Trump in a second here. I'll play this as a brief intermission, okay? Special counsel obtains Trump
reported by CNN, but confirmed now by CBS News.
The classified documents saga.
Legal trouble for former President Donald Trump. The former president was recorded talking about a classified document that he kept after leaving the White House. Dozens of papers marked classified, you'll recall, were seized from his Florida home last year. And our senior investigative correspondent, Catherine Herridge, is following all these developments at the Justice Department for us. Catherine, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. The audio tape is now part of the special counsel criminal investigation, and sources tell CBS News it was the focus of recent grand jury testimony here in Washington.
Two sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News the audio tape is from a meeting 2 years ago at former President Trump's New Jersey golf club, more than a year before federal investigators searched his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida and seized records marked classified. The existence of the tape was first reported by CNN. Two sources say the recording captures Trump acknowledging there are national security restrictions on the Pentagon memo, the detailed potential plans to attack Iran. One source said that Trump stated he should have declassified the record before leaving the White House, apparently contradicting recent claims at a CNN town hall.
I have no classified documents. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them.
In his autobiography, Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, appears to describe the New Jersey meeting, where Trump recalls a 4-page report that contained a plan to attack Iran, deploying massive numbers of troops.
He possessed the classified document, and he had the intent to possess that.
Scott Frederickson is a former federal prosecutor.
This is a huge piece of evidence for the special counsel. It'll be highly influential in the decision of whether or not to indict the former president. And certainly, if there were to be a trial, this would be mighty powerful evidence, a tape recording of the president himself.
In an
Fuck. So, I hate that, like, they always slow roll this shit. Oh, here's the old clip of Trump being booed for the vaccine.
Days, less than 9 months, and it's great. And you know what? I believe totally in your freedoms. I do. You got to do what you have to do. But I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But you got, no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms.
They're literally booing him for even saying, like, you have the freedom to not take it, but you should take it. I took it. Apparently, Trump's doing a town hall with Hannity tonight at 6 p.m. PSD, FYI. Oh, my God, dude. Stop. Oh, my God. I can only be so fucking hard, dude. Anne! Anne! Typical. Typical. She was like, oh, yeah, I got... Anne! She literally did not order a salad. She was like, oh, give me your phone. I'll order a salad. And then did not order it. Classic.
But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know, okay? I'll call up Alabama and say, hey, you know what? But it is working. But you do have your freedoms. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And you got to get your kids back to school. 3 days, less than 9 months. And it's great. And you know what?
There is nothing better to do. There is no better celebration of Pride Month than watching Sean Hannity absolutely throat goat Donald Trump. There's no better way to fucking celebrate Pride Month than Sean Hannity throating him. Would you consider yourself a dog mom? Yes. I am a dog mom. I'm the dog mom. Anyway, so yeah, Trump is talking to voters in Iowa. He's doing a little town hall. He's back to taking credit for the COVID vaccines. I'm glad. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, we were so far up, hundreds of thousands of votes ahead, and all of a sudden you saw that drop at, 3:02 in the morning with, the chart coming down, 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 down. The votes are running out, pop, 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 bing, bing. And all of a sudden, we lose.
Oh, he's back to the bing bong.
Pennsylvania. And let's have some pizza, right? Okay? Let's have some pizza. Pennsylvania, we were so far up, 100.
Is there more from the Iowa shit? Oh, here.
As an example, Barack Hussein Obama got substantially less votes in his second term, and he won. We got more votes than anybody's ever gotten, and we didn't win. Explain that.
I love this. Bro, I fucking love... Oh, there's a 11-minute video on the playlist. Let's go to that then. Okay, before we get to the Trump thing, here is the... We'll get to the audio recording in a bit. Let's get to Trump.
Former President Donald Trump is speaking at the West Side Conservative Breakfast in Urbandale, Iowa. Right now, let's watch.
What happens to these people? And then you look at what they've done to the January 6 people. They've destroyed them and destroyed their lives. And a lot of them didn't even go into the building.
He's so back. Look at how fucking disgustingly orange he is. He literally looks like rotisserie chicken that was left out under those fucking lights for way too long. It is so beautiful. He is so beautiful, dude. Look at how disgusting his flesh looks. Oh my God. It literally looks like the average British lady from Essex, okay? The only time I've seen Tanner like this applied so liberally is in the fucking UK, okay? And you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's those fucking lovely ladies out there in fucking Essex, yeah? And this is how they fucking look, like an Oompa Loomper. Oompa Loomper! Oh my lord, dude. All he needs is like the grossest pink lipstick of all time. And that's like the least fuckable lady in Essex.
It was a disgrace. What's going on? That is a disgrace. That's going to go down in history ultimately. And Ashley Babbitt was killed, shot by, in my opinion, a rogue cop. He had no business doing that. He shot her unarmed. And
I said the least fuckable is in like, it's sarcastic because of course of course Trump is most fuckable.
actually, people say she was trying to hold back the people that were pushing her forward. Ashley Babbitt was the one that was killed. She was the one that was killed. And they like to say 5 people. That's the truth is. And there happened to be somebody else also in addition to Ashley. But Ashley Babbitt was a big supporter of everybody in this room. And by every account, she was an incredible person and a great patriot. And he shot her just like he had no problem. And then they wanted to shield him, right? They wanted to shield. And he ends up on NBC, being interviewed on NBC because he was so proud of himself. He thought he was a big shot. And they ought to look at his past record.
Do you think he's on drugs during this? First of all, there's never been a moment where Trump is not on drugs. He doesn't drink alcohol, but he's always been a Sudafed boy, I think, right? Isn't it? Isn't he a Sudi boy? Like he does like the adult version of like some kind of speed. I think he's like, he might even be like, he currently might be on some kind of diet pill too, like whether it's Ozempic or not, I don't know. He's lost a lot of fucking weight. But yeah, he's always done something.
By the way, take a look at his past record.
Thank you for giving us Kim Reynolds for governor of Iowa.
Good. That's right. I hate to say it, without me, you know she was not going to win. You know that, right? I gave you a couple of them. Without me, they wouldn't have won. But
what? No.
I gave you some good people.
Don't ever send me that fucking weirdo ever again, dude. It's like, no, I'm not interested in that fucking dude. Jesus Christ.
But you have some good people here. But as far as the time, it's a great question because I've been watching DeSantis go out and say, I've got 8 years. It's going to be 8 years. Let me tell you something. Right there, you should vote against him. It'll take me 6 months to have it totally the way it was. We'll have it fast. It's drilling, it's the wall, and it's getting criminals out of our country that have been allowed to come in so freely. We're going to get them out. ICE, we're going to double up on ICE and the Border Patrol. They're incredible people. Brandon Judd and Tom Homan and some people that we have are phenomenal people, but they don't use the good ones. They use very liberal, very radical left people, and it's hard to believe. You know, I did hundreds of miles of wall. Then I said, you know, we should do more. What do you think? And they gave me other locations. We were going to add another 200 miles to it. We started, would have been done within a few weeks. And the stuff was all there. They actually lifted it up and took it where Texas and Arizona can't get it. Can you believe it? Instead of saying, you guys put it up yourself, at least. But they didn't want it up. That's when I said, these guys actually believe in open borders. Who can believe in an open border? But when I heard DeSantis go out and say...
DeSantis.
And talk about 8 years. We need 8 years. You don't need 8 years. You need 6 months. We can turn this thing around so quickly. If you need 8 years, who the hell wants to wait 8 years?
I don't think Trump does Adderall. For those of you saying like Adderall, Vyvanse, Concerta, no, like I think he does like the old man version of that, which is like some kind of upper, like I said, like some like European Sudafed that has like ephedrine in it or something. You know what I mean? Like he's not the type. I don't think he's the type of dude that does like Adderall is like too new age for him. You know what I mean? What the fuck are you talking about? We're just discussing what kind of drugs Trump takes. Pseudoephedrine. Yeah, that shit that like made people's hearts explode. And there are boxes, I mean, there are photos of having like pseudoephedrine in his drawers from like back in the day. He takes Euro Sudafed. It was in the Mexican Bowl photo. Yeah. Why do you know all of this? Because I'm Trump's #1 stan, brother. What the fuck kind of question is that? Yeah. I'm a stan. Of course I know all of this because I'm a fucking stan. And plenty other stans exist in this community as well, which is why we know so much about Trump.
You don't need 8 years. I'll have it turned around, and I think fully turned around. We'll be drilling, and we'll be doing a lot of things. We'll be energy independent in 6 months. We'll be able to do that in
Here it
6
is.
months. Don't forget, I filled up the National Reserves.
Look. You can't really see because it's blurry in this, but this is like, I'm pretty sure this is the photo with like with the sooty sniffer. You've got Trump sniffing through the debates in 2016. He sounded like he had a cocaine party prior to the debates, or maybe it was the Sudafed he kept in his drawer. Multiple people from the set of Apprentice saw him abuse tons of Adderall. Oh, maybe he is an Adderall boy. I'm surprised that he's an Addy boy. Anyway.
I did a lot of things at very cheap prices. Congress held me back, actually. But we had a deal where I was going to fill it up for nothing, you know, when the oil was down so low because we had so much of it. We have more liquid gold under our feet than Saudi Arabia and Russia. Think of it. We have more than any other country. We were going to double up on them. We were not only going to be dominant, we were going to be beyond dominant. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia ×2. We were going to make a fortune with energy. We were going to start paying off debt and further reducing taxes. It was so beautiful. It was working so great. And then they just shut it all down. So a shame. But it's not 8 years. It's 6 months. And we'll be back. We'll be back in business, and sooner than that. And we'll be back in business. And those tractors are going to be spending a lot less money for their energy. And the food prices are going to start coming down, and a lot of things are going to start coming down. It'll be a beautiful thing to watch. It's going to happen very quickly. And I'm very experienced now. You know, it's not like I'm going in. Not like I'm going in and say, oh, this is a nice office. Is this the Oval Office? It takes you about a year to sort of say, can you believe this? This is the Oval Office.
Dude, this is so likable, dude. Like, it's not even just, like, this line here in and of itself is not even just, like, personable for the Republican Party base of voters, which already is, like, he already knows exactly how to speak to them. But this is, like, to the average American that doesn't care about politics too much, they see this and they go, oh, man, he's right. Like, it makes him look human, which he is anything but, for the record. I mean, look at his fucking face. I can't get over how ridiculous he looks. And yet, like, when you look at the way he's behaving right now, he's on his fucking game. I mean, I cannot see Ron DeSantis. I cannot see Rob DeSantis come close to behaving in this personable manner. And not only that, but also he's literally doing the right thing, which is talking, not actually legislating and like, trying to attack Disney or whatever. He'll say Disney is gay. And if Disney doesn't figure out what they're supposed to be doing, then I'll come for them, not actually go after them. You know what I mean? Like, king like you, he's a misunderstood man. No, he's the horrible monster. Do not misunderstand me. What we're talking about is like electability, I guess.
I won't have to say that. We're going to do it very quickly. And I think within 6 months, you're going to see a major part.
The same thing that I mentioned with Ron DeSantis earlier today. The main thing that I mentioned with Ron DeSantis earlier today about how Ron DeSantis keeps bringing up COVID, and that's actually not a benefit to him at all, is ironically a major benefit to Donald Trump, given the fact that nobody wants to think about COVID. a gigantic component of Donald Trump, a gigantic reason why Donald Trump lost was that he got COVID right before the election, which reminded the entire nation of his failures. I mean, what bigger failure than literally getting COVID and being fucking hospitalized? You know what I mean? What an incredible way to remind the nation that COVID is a huge problem, and hundreds of thousands of people are fucking dying, and all of the other associated emotional trauma. That was huge. That was in my opinion, probably one of the biggest fucking reasons why Donald Trump lost. Okay? Probably one of the biggest fucking reasons why he lost. Now, in 2024, America has moved beyond COVID. So when you have anyone trying to bring up COVID, they're going to look bad. And when Ron DeSantis keeps trying to bring up COVID and say like, oh, look at how good I was during COVID, that's a terrible fucking move by Ron, because then you're just invoking COVID and all of the emotional trauma associated with it, whether because you thought that like lockdowns were happening or whether it was because you felt even more isolated than you actually are. Okay? Donald Trump can get away with never mentioning COVID again. So that major burden on his electability is eviscerated, because anytime someone brings it up, he could just go, we're moving beyond COVID. America's moved beyond COVID. Why do you want to go back to that bad time? Okay? It's not helpful for Ron because it's reminding people of COVID and how they felt during that time, and it's very helpful for Donald Trump. So just remember that. It's a big one. That's a big deal.
Part of the comeback. Not 8 years. He'll stop saying that. Watch. He's going to stop saying that, because if he needs 8 years to turn it around, he's saying, well, I'm going to, I can be. Let me tell you, I'll go 4 years. And if I do a great job, we're going to have a great Republican. Somebody is going to go another 4 years or 8 years. So it doesn't make any difference. But when he says 8 years, every time I hear it, I wince, because I say, if it takes 8 years to turn this around, then you don't want him. You don't want him as your president. You ought to go to the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth guys, but they're usually polling at about 1%. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, well, we'll do one more. Go ahead. Go ahead. Hi.
Hi, President Trump.
Plus, his double standards in this regards are brought up right now. Yeah. Rob DeSantis has recently attacked Trump for following Dr. Fauci's guidance early in the COVID pandemic, but in previously unreported comments he made in the spring 2020, the Florida governor praised the doctor for doing a really good job. There you go. There you fucking go. I told you this. I told you this. I told you they're going to say, oh, well, you shut down. You shut down Florida. You thought Dr. Fauci was doing a good job. You wore a fucking mask. You got vaccinated and were too scared to admit that you got vaccinated. And your cancer wife probably got vaccinated too. I told you, Donald Trump can fucking eviscerate him with these lines. Like, he could just turn around and literally go, you and your cancer wife got COVID, or got the COVID vaccine. At least I'm honest. You know? Weak. My wife never had cancer. You're weak. You know what I mean? So just remember that. These are no shot. He calls her his cancer wife. Lovely lady, got cancer. Very bad disease. Very bad. Did Ron give it to him? I won't say. Many people are saying Rob gave her cancer. Not me, though. I say, no, don't say that. Bye-bye. Little Rhonda. If you think that Trump wouldn't go there, you're wrong. You're out of your fucking mind if you think Trump wouldn't go there. Trump absolutely would go there. He doesn't even need to go there, because he could just fucking show Little Rhonda's campaign ad over and over again, when Little Rhonda is like, hello, I love Donald Trump, teaching their child build the wall, shit like that. He 100% will go there. Didn't he take the vaccine plus booster and get booed for it? I think that's a total dumbass move for DeSantis, but I'm not sure as much of a slam dunk on Trump if DeSantis just reminds him of that. No, that's my point. Ron DeSantis got vaccinated too. Guys, these guys are all fucking major hypocrites, okay? Like, of course they all got vaccinated. All of the fucking conservative pundits that didn't get vaccinated died, okay? We covered it. We were there. You were there as well, most likely. Every single fucking conservative pundit that didn't actually get vaccinated fucking died, okay? Of course they all got vaccinated. They're not stupid. They're evil. The stupid ones died. Some of them still tweet about vaccines to this fucking day, as a matter of fact, even though they're fucking dead. So, it's important to see like what Trump's line of attack is while speculating what Trump's additional lines of attack might be.
I just graduated high school 2 weeks ago.
Great.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow,
And so
great.
my question for you is, since your last term in office, there have been a lot of attacks on education in terms of censorship and all of that. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on parental control and that kind of thing within schools, school choice, and all of that. Education is very important to me, so wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
So
Thank
big,
you.
very good question. Congratulations, by the way. Good. Were you a good student? Were you good? Pretty good. Okay, just pretty good.
She just got a $180,000 scholarship, a naval scholarship to go to Yale.
Wow. Oh, wow. She's very
Wow.
modest. She's very modest. That's fantastic. That's great. Congratulations. Very big on school choice. Can you imagine we even have to talk about parental control and basically having parents get involved? We have school systems that don't even want to talk to the parents about their children. And you talk about changing gender and things where the child can make a choice and the child can be unbelievably young. The country has gone sick. It's gone sick. And I don't like the term woke because I hear woke. You know, it's like just a term that half the people can't even define it. They don't know what it is. But you look at these things.
Like, this is, as far as triangulation goes, that in and of itself is a significantly better way to rephrase the conversation than like talking about fucking children's genitals. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh, kids are choosing genders? What's going on? It's unbelievable. It's fucked up. We got to stop that. But when Matt Walsh is doing it, he's like, they're mutilating your child's penis. And it's like, dude, what the fuck are you saying? Even then, the gender stuff is not the most, it's not the most popular thing to talk about. Okay? It's not the most popular thing to talk about because, like, for the most part, people just have apathy. I've said this so many fucking times. Okay? It's not exactly a real constituency that's, like, actively able to mobilize on behalf of, like, stopping, stopping people's medication and their health care on the virtue of, like, it being something that Republicans don't agree with.
Things like women getting, competed with, men.
That is a byproduct of focus-tested anti-trans screeds that came from the Republican think tanks, the churches, and the special interest groups. We talked about it already. They looked at it. They wanted to attack, as I've told you, and the New York Times Daily actually covered it this morning. Did a pretty good job. I can't believe I'm recommending them. But after Obergefell, they were like, all right, the next line is trans people. We got to attack trans people. We're going to make them the villain of society. We got to constantly bully them, bash them. And they found out that the bathroom bills were not successful. Everybody mobilized against it. Okay? Everybody mobilized against it. So, they were like, all right, let's get back to the drawing board. Let's figure out what will actually be better as a better line of attack. And shouts out to Joe Rogan, who was already doing this at that point. Trans women participating with cis women was the strategy. They found it. That is significantly more popular than anything else. Why is that popular? Not because people are like grossed out by trans people in general, but because you can make an adequate argument as to why it's unfair. And Americans love fairness. It's not fair when you tell a little girl or even a trans person who's an adult that they can't go into the fucking bathroom, okay? That part is ridiculous. It's silly. It still goes back to, like, your hands are in people's genitals, you know what I mean? You're constantly trying to figure out what the fuck's going on in people's genitals. That's weird and gross. But fairness in sports is a universal value that you can advocate for. And that is the reason why it's the most effective way to open the conversation up and just, like, expand on additional transphobia. That's why they move very quickly. None of those fucking bills just stayed at the state legislatures at, eliminating the 4 trans 12-year-olds from participating in sports, and very quickly moved on to criminalizing, offering puberty blockers and any kind of, like, medical care. Okay? Any kind of medical care whatsoever to even adult trans people, not just, like, trans children or their parents, but even adult trans people. So they, it was never about the 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 fucking young trans people participating in sports. It was always about just stopping trans people from existing in society. Okay? Same with the bathrooms. Because when you ask people, like, okay, so what's your suggestion? The kind-hearted transphobic person will say, oh, why don't they make their own league? And that's unsustainable. That's not a thing that can ever happen because there's, like, 3 of them and they're all participating in, like, different fucking sports. So what are they supposed to do? Go up against one another, all 3 of them? Like the track and field athlete is gonna fucking go against the athlete at the swim meet? Like, it doesn't work that way. Because the goal is not to stop trans people from participating in sports or whatever. It's usually just to stop trans people, period. Okay? No, that's a bad take. What do you mean? Ultimately, if you care about this kind of stuff, if you legitimately are fearful of this kind of stuff, I'm sorry to report this, but you have been duped by literal dumbasses. Like, Republicans put this in front of your eyes and made you angry about it when you didn't know that it existed. You never would have thought under different circumstances that you would care if it was a real, like, that it was ever a real problem or not. And the only reason why you talk about it is because reactionaries are very good at making everyone laser focus on whatever kind of initiative they consider to be the biggest, most unjust moment, or the biggest, most unjust situation happening. Anyway. I still don't get your Americans love fairness. Americans, or just people in general, are significantly more interested in competition fairness than they are in, like, stopping random trans people from going potty, okay? That's it. That's why it was a more effective strategy. Ultimately, it still doesn't matter. I want to be the chatal. Chatal var bende, gerçi. I don't need anything. You can just give me the salad. And for the record, like, Americans believe in a false notion of meritocracy to begin with. That's the same concept. It's the same principle. And for those of you who don't understand that, for those of you who don't get it, like, this is not my assessment of the situation. Okay? It's not my assessment of the situation. It is tested. Okay? This is already something that this is something that, like, the Christian lobbyist groups have already tested and found out is the most effective way to introduce transphobia and sell it to a broader audience. Yeah, we're obsessed with winning, individuality, and this figment of individual superiority. Yeah. By the way, this doesn't mean that trans girls and trans boys should not participate in athletic competition against cis girls and boys. Make no mistake. I'm simply talking about it from how people perceive it and how it was very deliberately crafted as an effective means to distract people and get people riled up against trans issues, while also simultaneously telling you that it was never really about the competition or the fairness at all. It was manufactured outrage. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because ultimately it's inconsequential, it's insignificant, and you should fucking belittle people that regularly bring it up. I think that's the most effective way to just like kind of snap people out of their fucking mania. So he basically admitted that trans women competing with biological women is unfair. No sports is fair. Okay? If sports were fair, then you wouldn't watch sports at all. It's a matter of, do you think it's fucked up that trans people get to compete with cis people, or do you not? Okay? Is there some cynical reason as to why trans people are transing themselves to compete with cis people or not? The transphobic person will say, yes, trans people are transing themselves deliberately to win a fucking high school swim meet. Okay? Sports have never been fair. It is so fucking stupid. Sports, if it was fair, would not have, then, you know, the NBA would have a 6 foot and under league. You know what I mean? Everyone be the same height? Is that what you want? What about outside of high school? In professional sports, I still don't give a shit. It's great. Everybody's on steroids starting from high school to the NBA. Yeah, that too, but it's not fair enough. Yeah, once you eliminate the 3 trans people from participating in sports, then it'll be fair, certainly. So, I'm not saying that like certain trans people might not have physical advantages over cis women, for example. They might. It hasn't bared itself out in the data because there aren't that many trans athletes. Stop saying they do. Stop saying they do. That is so fucking stupid. Please. If that was the case, then anytime a trans person was competing, they would eviscerate the competition. Okay? I hate that I have to argue, even when I'm being, I'm being 100% honest about this. Okay? You literally will go and say, no, they definitely do. If they did, across the board, every time a trans person competed with cis women, they would win 100% of the time. Okay? That's fucking ridiculous. And they don't. They fucking don't. 1, it's entirely dependent on the sports. And 2, even then, they still fucking end up losing. Plenty of times. You want to know why? Because that's what makes sports great, as a matter of fact. Sports is uncertain, okay? You have the Celtics come back on a historic fucking run and then still get blown out. You know what I mean? Like that's what makes people watch sports. That's why the NBA is scripted. Okay? Like plenty of the trans athletes that you hear about, ironically, are never in like first place. They're like tying for 5th place with a cis girl, meaning 4 fucking cis girls defeated this person, and yet you're still making a big stink about it. Do you want to know why? Because it's a trans person. That's it. It's the transness that frustrates you. An argument I've used with trans sports or using hormones, for example, that will give you some level of competitive advantage, hormones to overcome certain genetic health complications, is Lionel Messi, the legend himself, who took human growth hormone early on so that he could overcome the growth issues that he had. You know what I mean? You don't have an issue with that, and you shouldn't have an issue with that. is Lionel fucking Messi. But when it's a trans girl, literally nerfing their power, okay? Because pre gender confirmation, pre HRT, they are more powerful. And when you have a trans girl literally nerfing themselves with hormones, you're still like, nope, it's not enough. And ultimately, we end up having this conversation for like an hour when it is so insignificant. Okay? Yeah, the only time a trans person actually is like eviscerating the competition and like has demonstrable has a demonstrable biological advantage is when it's a fucking conservative person who's like, I'm trans, lol, and goes in and like competes against other cis women. And it's a cis man, and he's doing it for attention. They can't fucking find like an actual trans person that's doing that. So then they become the meme themselves. If there were a million different examples of this, you wouldn't fucking see actual cis men, okay? Cis conservative men go and do that. An argument made is that someone will claim to be trans just so they can win even if they aren't. Exactly. Exactly. And because there are no real examples of that argument, there's the only time that argument has ever happened is when it's like a conservative fucking podcaster or some shit like Zuby. He did the weightlifting challenge. You know? The Emma Vigeland clip they're posting is good. Yeah, people were yelling at her apparently.
Emma, there's tons of evidence regarding testosterone levels in height, strength, and speed between people with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes. Matt's citation off cases about the Olympics is pertinent, but an argument for better planning and more transparent discussions. Your argument is really bad on this, and you're out of your depth. You're correct that trans women should be able to compete in women's sports, but your argument for it is just scientifically and factually.
Oh God, I can see the fucking debate lord just permeate off of that commentary. Listen, motherfucker. If you want to have an honest and earnest conversation about this thing, you can't say you're out of your fucking depth, okay? Who the fuck are you? I'm literally yelling at the commentator who's a Majority Report subscriber who's like yelling at Emma right now. I hate it. It's like, no, I'm not. You're a fucking donkey who read and misunderstood, most likely, three studies from the same like Swedish Institute of Killing Trans People or whatever the fuck, okay? From like 1984, and you're literally in here repeating the same fucking talking points, but you're like in your depth. You're in the pocket. Like, no, you're not. Shut the fuck up. We are both just as fucking clueless. I just happen to be on the side of empathy is all, and you are not. That's the only difference. Why? Because there isn't enough studies and enough adequate data on the issue, quote unquote, of trans women competing. You want to know why? Because there haven't been that many trans women competing in sports in a long enough fucking timeline. And medicine in this field is constantly fucking improving. Like 25 years ago, nobody was even considering, for example, hormone blockers or puberty blockers. You know what I mean? This is like all very new stuff, which is why I often find myself on the side of empathy, number one, and also find myself listening to medical professionals on what is the best path forward instead of the 3D transitioners that get like 1,100 articles on the New York fucking Times all goddamn day. Okay? It's okay to study this. And ultimately, not only am I on the side of empathy, but I also don't care. I don't care if a trans person has some level of biological advantage due to what point in their life they were actually able to medically transition. Okay? Because ultimately, sports is literally about it being fun. Okay? And so far, anecdotal or empirical, there isn't enough evidence to suggest that trans women are fucking dominating cis women. It does not exist. This is not a thing that has happened, okay? There are cis women who are genetic fucking freaks that eviscerate these trans women, okay? They do. That's why it's frustrating. All athletes are fucking genetic freaks. That's what makes sports interesting and unique. I don't care if a trans person is getting like 5th fucking place in a swim meet, okay? I don't. You will not be able to get me to care about this. And I don't think you care about it either. You only care about it because it's right in front of your fucking face. Okay? That's why. It's because it's in your face and we're talking about fairness and it triggers a part of your brain where you're like, yeah, whoa, that does seem unfair. Men are oftentimes on average stronger than women and more athletic than women. Obviously, I don't mean like, Ronda Rousey versus like me in the field of fucking regular fighting. I mean like, on average, okay? So immediately you're like, wait a minute, bro, that doesn't make any sense. Fucked up. It's like me playing against a bunch of girls, me playing basketball against a bunch of girls. Okay? Yeah, I mean, exactly. Transgender Olympian Laurel Hubbard fails to win medal in the Olympic debut, and then they said she fucking flubbed it on purpose to allow other trans people to be able to compete. They said she got to that podium and actually wasn't able to do this, so even though she had the power to do this, because because maybe they'll get like other trans people down the line to fucking compete. The only time trans athletes drastically outperform cis ones is when they're M2F trans and they live in states where they can't compete against bio men. So they take tons of testosterone for their HRT, and it's not even that big of a problem because there's only like 4 in total high school sports. Oh yeah, you mean AFAB trans men? Yes. And they fucking rip. It's like Texas. There's a version of this in Texas. Yeah, no. There are. I think the person said the wrong thing. No, it's FTM, not MTF. AFAB trans men, like AFAB trans boys, sometimes in like states like Texas, fucking compete against cis men, and they're like, oh, who cares? Like whatever, it's trans because like he's gonna be weak regardless, and then like they fucking rip. It's pretty awesome. That dude is like in college now, no?
It's the dramatic end to a competitive and controversial weekend for Mac Beggs. The 17-year-old Dallas area high school student won the title of champion in the girls' state wrestling competition Saturday.
They're booing?
Cheers and boos directed at the wrestler as he fell to his knees, appearing to soak in the win.
Wait.
Many in the audience feel Beggs has an unfair advantage on the road to victory. Beggs is a transgender athlete, boy or girl.
Wait. I thought he was AFAB and he was competing. I think originally he was competing against cis boys. Okay, I think he was originally competing against cis boys. And then they fucking swapped him to the female league. Yeah. And by the way, he was literally beating the cis boys too. AFAB means assigned female at birth. Yes, this is a trans man who was beating the cis men, cis boys in high school. So they swapped him to compete against cis women who he fucking absolutely destroyed. That was 6 years ago.
Transitioning to become a boy. He takes testosterone injections to make that transition happen. Many believe that provides the young.
God, I love testosterone so much. It's the fucking best, dude. It's so fire. Huh.
Young wrestler with an added competitive edge. His strength and agility are hard to miss on the mat.
So there's a big issue.
I get that we tend to see things from a propaganda perspective, so when I push back on people, I say the things you say, but how do I push back on people who say that we should be able to have philosophical conversations about this? What? How do I push back when a person seems to want to have a genuine conversation about the pros and cons of this, need good arguments? What do you mean the philosophical conversations about this? I already gave you all of those arguments. I told you, okay? Sports is not fair. It's not supposed to be fair, okay? There is like supposedly a base level of fairness, which already doesn't really exist. Sports is the closest we have to a meritocratic approach, but there's still no real meritocracy because the material conditions absolutely give us a competitive advantage. A boy born into the Western world to a wealthier family is going to do significantly well, much better than a boy born into an impoverished family in a nation that does not have adequate scouting programs and adequate farming programs. It's not an accident that like African nations do not have as good of as good competitive domestic leagues and domestic players, and most of those good players actually end up getting shipped out to Europe. When it comes to soccer, for example, does that make sense? So you celebrate and cherish a lot of these unfair genetic freaks like Michael Phelps and all these other kinds of people because of their accomplishments, because you find that to be natural. But when someone is overcoming, like, when someone is trans and they take hormones, take hormone blockers or take hormones specifically to better represent themselves to become, who they actually are, you somehow find that to be unnatural. That's the major problem, right? Ultimately, though, to me, that is no different. That is no different than like having other advantages, like coming from a wealthier background or being born into a family that's like very interested in developing you from an early age, or even something that Lionel Messi did, something that I use all the time as an argument. The girl who lost and got second place was not even mad at him about it. She was in a doc with Mac about the situation, and she had the best take on the situation. She said, who becomes transgender and goes through all this just to win a sport? That's dumb, and that's not how it works. But it's true. That is not how it works. She scared the fuck out of me for a second when she got up. She just peed. There's no way. And for the record, because of the way that people can supposedly, quote unquote, always tell, oftentimes, you know who gets hurt the most? Other than the 3 fucking trans people that are competing in sports that are no longer able to, it's all the cis girls. It's mostly cis women that get shit on in this regard, because there are significantly more cis women that are in competitive sports than there are trans women. So people constantly go, oh, I can tell that's a trans woman. That's a trans woman. That's a trans woman. She's cheating. Anyway. Yeah, and they weaponize it against black women usually too. So there it is. That was a brief aside that turned into an entirely separate subject matter here. Let's listen to what Emma has to say, and then we'll go back to Donald Trump in a second. But really, what you should be considering is going back to the top of the hour ad break that I forgot to run, because at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Baby Matcha Latte, thank you for the 5 get the subs. Allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour.
Incorrect. I'm actually not bad about this. I'm 100% right on this. I don't give a shit about the scientific explanations. People, if they identify as a woman, get to compete in sports. If that's not fair in the short term for a variety of little competitions, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit, because the societal interest of including trans people in society trumps stupid competition. Full stop. So I'm right about this. You're wrong about this. Anyway. Dr. Shock, I agree. Let's get rid of weight classes in all combat sports. Perhaps have grown man compete in Little League. Sometimes life's not fair. What?
Like people...
It's barely an institution. It's only been around for a few decades. Like if...
Yeah. People are just like not going to be normal about this, no matter what. Okay? They're just not going to be normal about this. Like, she's not wrong. I remember when the Fallon Fox story popped off and the other woman was getting harassed because people thought she was the trans one. Yeah. That happens all the fucking time. People are so stupid. They literally end up yelling at the cis woman that they are supposedly defending and protecting. So dumb. You also mentioned the one time there was a surfer that people got, no, it was a skateboarder that people got angry at them for winning, and then you pulled an article about them as a kid beating into, usually, yeah. I mean, there is that too. Like, oftentimes, trans women, before they're competing, if they are ever competing as their assigned gender at birth, they could be dominant. And then they're significantly less dominant when they go through gender confirmation, when they start taking HRT. Anyway, Emma continues her heated rant, declaring that if women's sports can't accommodate trans women, the entire institution of women's sports itself shouldn't exist. I don't want to have this fucking conversation, but the real thing is, like, if trans women are so fucking dominant and so aggro and so like hyper competitive, it would unironically bring more revenue and more attention and more eyeballs to women's sports, which would inevitably yield positive results for women's sports in general. Obviously, that's not the fucking case regardless, so it doesn't really matter. But, you know, that is the truth. Anyway. Ultimately, the worst part about this conversation is that you are causing me to fucking care about women's sports. I do not even care about men's sports. Why the fuck would I care about women's sports? Women don't care about women's sports. I hate you for making me ever broach this subject or learn about not only women's sports at the most competitive, at the most interesting professional level, but like women's sports in fucking high school and shit, dog. It's so disgusting. It's so ridiculous. I hate it. I hate it so much. I will never forgive the transphobes for making me have to learn about women's sports.
That we're men and are men, and they're out there swimming and setting records. You see the records that are being broken? Records that lasted for 19 years are being broken by, 30 seconds. They're trying.
Name one instance. Ours never happened.
To win by a 16th of a second in swimming on one of the events.
He's just lying.
A 16th of a second. They're trying to win for years. And a guy comes along and breaks the record by, numbers that will never be broken again, unless you have another guy come along, and then he'll probably have it broken. The whole thing is crazy. I'm not a fan of LeBron James, but I said, if I were the coach of a women's basketball team, I would have the greatest team. I'd say, And I go to another 4 or 5 big guys, and I'll say, how about we will be undefeated for many, many years. There will.
Yeah, LeBron James is going to take a pay cut and become a woman to play in the WNBA. Like, he can't fucking win. That argument doesn't even make sense.
Never be anything like it. I'll go down as the greatest coach in history. They'll say I was the greatest ever. No, it's so crazy. And that's all woke. You know, that's all, I guess they define that as woke, but that's all woke. We have to bring common sense back into the country. You know, people say, oh, you're conservative. I said, yeah, I'm conservative. But more important is I'm a person with common sense. And so are the people in this room. And our country needs common sense back in leadership. We had great common sense for 4 years. And we produced the greatest economy ever. I rebuilt our military. I mean, the $85 billion was massive, but it was just a small portion of what we rebuilt. It was a massive amount, but a small portion. But when you look at what we did at the border, when you look at what we did in every single aspect, even right to try, where we had for 58 years they've been trying to get this, where we have very far-reaching drugs that were good, but they're not approved by the FDA, and somebody's terminally ill. And we couldn't get the drugs. They'd go to Asia, or if they're poor, they just go home and they die. They have no hope. But they'd go to Europe. They go all over the world looking for something. And I signed a bill, very hard to get, actually very complicated, because the drug companies didn't want it, the labs didn't want it, the doctors didn't want it, because, you know, they thought they had liability. I signed a non-liability.
Yeah, companies definitely did not want you to revoke liability. They were like, Mr. Trump, please don't deregulate pharmaceutical trials for us, please. That would be so terrible.
Laws, I got it approved, and everybody's happy. We've saved, with right to try, we've saved.
Like, he literally owned himself in that same argument. He's like, companies didn't want it, so I revoked the liability. I took it away. It's like, yeah, no, they wanted that. That's why you did it. No, he didn't. You misunderstood what he said. Wait, what do you mean? That is what he said. He said companies didn't want to do it because they were afraid of liability. So he fucking took away the liability. And he allowed companies to be able to test out drugs. Also, right to try is like not the worst thing anyway. It doesn't even matter. Yeah, how is that contradictory? It's not contradictory. He's lying when he says companies did not want to try right to try. It's a lie because companies did want to do it. They just wanted him to revoke the liability, which he did. What are you doing? I'm the #1 Trump stan here. Don't you dare fucking come at me and try to like defend Donald Trump in this chat. Okay? He's like, I did a good thing for them even though they didn't want it. It's like, no, they wanted it. That's why you did it.
Laws, I got it approved, and everybody's happy. We've saved, with right to try, we've saved thousands and thousands of lives of people that are terminally ill. And people would say, well, we can't do that because
nobody's dying in America anymore.
Anyway. And yet they were in there for close to 60 years now trying to get that approved. And I got it approved through Congress. I got it approved. You had to go through Congress on that one. And we're saving lives, tremendous numbers of lives. I'm very proud of that one, right to try. It sounds easy. You'd think it would be easy to get it approved, actually, but it was very, very tough. Gone for many, many years.
I'm surprised he's not talking about gay pride. I feel like that should, like, I'm surprised he wouldn't hit, like, at least a little bit on it. Not at all is confusing. Like, I don't think he'll be like, oh, we're taking down Target. Like, I don't think he's going to do that. He's not going to get into the fucking weeds of it. But I could see him being like, corporations are so woke.
I took care of the vets better than anybody. We had a 92% approval rating, and now it's going way down, I understand. But we, you know, we had a lot of bad people in the VA, and you weren't able to fire him because of civil service and various other reasons. And I got that taken care of, and we let go of 9,000 really bad people. And I also, people were waiting in line for literally.
Yeah. Every solution to the problems is like deregulation and cuts. He's so good. Like, he don't give a fuck about the, it's not money. It's never money. It's always, he just tweeted. No, he didn't. Shut up. This is from 2019. You got my hopes up for a second. As we celebrate LGBT Pride Month and recognize the outstanding contributions of LGBT people that have made our great nation, let us also stand in solidarity with the many LGBT people who live in dozens of countries worldwide that punish, imprison, or even execute individuals on the basis of their sexual orientation. My administration has launched a global campaign to decriminalize homosexuality and invite all nations to join in this effort. Like, that is not a joke. Like, the Trump with the LGBT flag is not a joke. We, unfortunately, we have such a short memory that we forget that like things become almost like a permanent staple in our existence, where we think like, oh, it was always like this. It was always like this. It's like, no, man. There was like fucking trans Trump supporters even. I mean, obviously Caitlyn Jenner. Like, he literally was like, I don't care where you go pee or poop. I don't care. Trans people can pee or poo wherever they want in Trump Tower. Like, he literally said that. He said that in 2016. And now everyone's like, oh my God, trans people, they're so good at sports, folks. We got to do something about them. You want to know why? You want to know why you feel like this is something that you need to care about? It's because a very effective Republican propaganda machine put this in front of you every fucking day, nonstop, for the past 4 fucking years, and now your brain is broken in an irreparable fashion. You will never be able to be the same again. That's why you're looking at it. That's why you look at it and you think, no, it's always been this way. No, it hasn't. It is not. That's why every single fucking dumbass conservative has literally done drag. Like every single one of them, with the exception of Donald Trump, who is a drag king and not a drag queen, literally right now. You know what I mean? He's the most campy, caked up, motherfucker you've ever seen, right? So just remember, whenever you see something or whenever you feel something about like trans people or trans athletes or drag queens or whatever, question it. Be like, wait a minute. Is this something that's in front of me right now and I'm being conditioned into like having an opinion over it for some other nefarious purpose, which is to misdirect away from like the real problems that persist in society, which is exactly why it's happening? Or do I legitimately care about this? Like, this is something I need to care about. That's it. It's always the first, never the second. Think critically about this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of liberals as well end up having these reactionary perspectives, these reactionary talking points. It becomes basically a part of your life. And then you forget a time when it wasn't. You forget a time when you don't even fucking think about it, when you never thought about it. You laughed at people that would have ever brought it up. It's a very scary thing.
Early months, and some people were becoming terminally ill because they couldn't get something taken care of early. And I said, you wait in line, and you have to wait in line for more than 24 hours. You go outside to a private doctor. We pay the bill, and you get yourself taken care of. We went up to and it actually saved money, as opposed to you'd think it would cost.
The damage and devastation that can be inflicted by Islamic radicals has been proven over and over. At the World Trade Center, at an office party in San Bernardino, at the Boston Marathon, at a military recruiting center in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and many, many other locations. Only weeks ago in Orlando, Florida, 49 wonderful Americans were savagely murdered by an Islamic terrorist. This time, the terrorist targeted LGBTQ community. No good, and we're going to stop it.
Yeah. He was like, we're going to stop it because we are not outsourcing that any longer, even though he wasn't fucking outsourced anyway. He was an American. He was like, we're going to do it ourselves, folks. Like, look at the conservative movement. These are people who are celebrating Trump saying he's going to protect the gays.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology. Believe me. And I have to say, as a Republican, it is so nice to hear you cheering for what I just said. Thank you.
Like, this looks like from a different planet, right? Knowing what you know about what has happened since then, in the fucking, like, 7 years, almost 8 years since this happened, you look at it and you're like, wow, this must be from a different universe, an alternative universe. Like, no. Now, are you just blaming Muslims back then? I know. That's a typical conservative trope, is to act like you care about the LGBT to fucking attack Muslims as though they're the ones who are fucking attacking LGBT, when we know who attacks the LGBTQ community. In America, it's white evangelical Protestants who are significantly more hateful than any other group in the United States of America and have an outsized amount of power. So the point is not that Donald Trump is like some woke hero. It's not. He just knows how to read the room. And at the time, this was the audience. The audience was receptive to this kind of message, especially when partnered up with anti-Muslim sentiment. Okay? Didn't Asai get mad at a beer company when a trans person's face was put on a few counts exclusively for that reason? My friend, do you think I'm trying to make the argument that Republicans are not unhinged fucking losers who are transphobic and want to kill trans people? Of course they are. The point is, they are easy to manipulate, and so are you. A lot of people think that they are above the propaganda and spend an insane amount of time arguing on the boundaries that these freaks have set for us, instead of just saying, nah, that's fucking bullshit. You are being manipulated into having these conversations over and over again. You are not immune to propaganda. I am not either. And it ultimately shapes your reality in such powerful ways that you end up forgetting a near, not so distant past where things were the exact opposite. Do you understand? That's why I gave you that snapshot from 7 years ago before Donald Trump became president.
It actually saved a lot of money. But when you think of it, we did things that nobody's ever done. With the VA, we had a 92% approval rating. Nobody has ever been. We were 36 points higher than previous. So we're very proud of what we did for the vets and what we did for the military and what we did for the farmers. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And we have a nasty race ahead of us because, we have the communists, the Marxists, the fascists after us. We have a lot of bad people after us. We have a lot of very bad people in this country. And fortunately, we have mostly great people in this country. And really, the people in this room, right from the beginning, we struck a chord. I didn't even have to work too hard with that. I worked hard once I got into office to produce all the things I said, but we'll do that again, and we'll do it in spades. We're going to do a great job for the farmers, the manufacturers, but we're going to do a great job for your state. And I just want to thank you for your support. You've been incredible, and for your leadership. You people have been amazing.
Yeah.
And thank you.
He's talking about the communists and the Marxist party that's in power right now because we're in the nation of Nepal.
Very much, Matt, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily